Good evening, YouTube. Reporting live from Sather headquarters, and I got a couple friends I want to introduce you to. This is Ben and Rob from Edge of Wonder. So this is the first time they're actually on my channel here, and I just figured, let's go live. Let's hang out for a little bit. Let's talk about our time at ECETI. And they haven't been on my channel yet, so for those of you out there who don't know about them, they'll talk about themselves a little bit, and then we'll just talk about some of the news breaking, of course. Tons of Q posts going on. You guys follow Q. You guys do some great videos on their channel about Q, huge videos as well. So they've been instrumental as citizen journalists in this whole movement. Their channel is huge. So if you don't know about Edge of Wonder, go subscribe. And how was your guys' time at ECETI?
Man, it was awesome.
Oh, it was incredible.
Jordan was actually the one that told us about ECETI and then told James about us, and James invited us, and we had an amazing time at ECETI.
Oh, yeah, it was just phenomenal.
Yeah, it was awesome. You know, me knowing James for a few years and you guys for quite a while now. It was awesome seeing a lot of the homies come together. A lot of the people who, you know, I've been friends with and whose work I've enjoyed for quite a while. So you guys had a good time out there.
Yeah, I completely forgot that James actually contacted us through you. So yeah,
Yeah, I love this. There's everybody coming together at these conferences, at these events, and making big things happen. So what sort of stuff you guys see in the sky? See anything?
I mean, there was lots of movement in the sky, not gonna lie. And I mean, the weirdest thing that hit me first was all these lights coming off of the mountain, Mount Adams. That made no sense. Like, it was throughout the entire night. It wasn't like it was one time or it was in one place.
And they were moving around too, like on the mountain. I mean, and these aren't hikers. I mean, these are like lights moving like, you know, 10, 20, 50 meters at a time. Unless someone has a jetpack on, you're not gonna...
Yeah, and the mountain's 14 miles away, and like you said, the lights are there all night. Like you would think campers would go to sleep, and could you see a campfire 14 miles away? And you know, just a lot of weird, anomalous stuff goes on out there on the mountain and in the sky.
Oh yeah.
Power-ups, things flashing and all that. So
never mind all the hippies.
All them hippies. Oh, I love them hippies though.
Dear, like kind people.
Fantastic.
Everybody
people
was
out there.
so awesome, actually.
The crew was amazing. All the volunteers out there. James just creates such a positive atmosphere there. Like he doesn't let any bullshit enter that ranch, enter those grounds. So it's incredible. What'd you guys present on?
We actually presented on the human body and extraterrestrial beings and kind of how to understand, I think, the relationship between, you know, there's a lot of, I think, I don't want to say misunderstandings, but there's a kind of a limited understanding of extraterrestrials in this lateral dimension, and Ben and I kind of wanted to present on everything that we know about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, because it's not just extraterrestrials, right? You have interdimensional beings, and then you have like the negative ETs, and then coming into like what we would call like demons, and you know, the spectrum is so massive. And then on top of that, you know, really show that our bodies, our human bodies are very special, you know, we almost like super normal, and how really
we're divine beings, man.
Exactly.
We have all these powers that people barely know about and barely tune into.
Exactly. And like, I mean, if you look at every religion, it says that we are created in the divine image, you know, image of God, I guess you could say, you know? So, I mean, literally. So, I mean, using that, and then how and why the negative ETs want our bodies, because our bodies, you know, and
or just in general, why so much activity on Earth? Like, you know,
why are they so interested in us? Us little humans
like,
here.
And we all think we're like this puny, undeveloped, you know, life form, but I think it's very much the opposite of that.
Right. So there's a reason why, number one, all the benevolent species are here interested in this planet right now, want us to succeed, and number two, all the malevolent, the bad species have been here for a long time, sort of farming us in a way, you know, harvesting our energy.
Exactly. Well, I mean, and also one thing we were showing is that we only use 10% of our brain according to science, right? If we can unlock that, I mean, who knows what we're
That DNA is just junk. That's just junk DNA. You don't need that. Just take that out and put it in with some nanobots or something.
And just go watch your TV. And then
just go watch your TV. And
but speaking of, well, actually, one of the cool things that I saw in the sky, actually, one of the last nights we were there, going back to that, there was this super bright UFO that was flying over us, the brightest I've seen, and there was like this, it either ejected something or there was like some kind of shooting star or something that went right behind it, and then it changed course and started going faster, and then it just stopped, and it looked like it was hovering over us for a while, and then it just like kind of took off straight, so then it just got smaller and smaller.
How long of a span did this all happen in?
Probably,
seconds?
No. This was probably a matter of at least a few minutes, actually.
Okay.
Because because as soon as I shined the laser on it, that's when I saw it looked like he ejected something from the spacecraft.
Interesting.
And then
How late in the morning was this?
this was like 3 a.m.
Oh man,
It
3
was
a.m.
like 2 or 3 a.m.
I gotta be honest, going to ECETI in the summer is tough because we're up here in
It
the
is.
Northwest, you know, and I'm like an old man. I'm in bed by like 9, and then shoot, the sun goes down at 9. You still got
Yeah.
twilight for a couple hours. Sun
Around 11 p.m. every
Yeah.
night, Jordan was like, "You guys, I'm going back."
Getting old.
I just try to wake up at 3 or 4 in the morning and see the morning lights. No, but that's good. And for people out there on my channel who are unfamiliar with you guys, which there might be a few, probably not many, but there might be a few. How did you get into doing the work on the internet as citizen journalists, and even beforehand waking up, period?
Well, so I guess it started like Rob and I were both working for media company Epic Times. This was back.
So for you guys that don't know the Epoch Times, you should totally go check them out. Those guys are pretty awesome.
Independent media, they're
Yeah.
really cool. So we were both working for them, and I was a photographer, and so I was actually getting sent on assignments. I was actually at Ferguson when the height of the crazy protests, like all the fires and everything was breaking out. And that was back in 2014. And really, I mean, I already knew like all this stuff with 9/11, everything's going on. But really, that was the first time when I started realizing our government right now is really behind the scenes with all of this. Because I was seeing both sides fighting, and I'm like, man, this is crazy. Some crazy things are
Something's
going on.
wrong here. All these humans shouldn't be at each other's throats doing all this. Yeah.
And I was also in Hong Kong at the protests there, and then right away I went over to Ferguson. So seeing all of this, I'm like, man, there's something going on behind the scenes. And also, like, I would be at an event, and something minor would happen, and then I would come back and see the media blowing that up, like mainstream media, not Epic Times, but the mainstream media focusing just on that small thing and making it seem like this massive thing happened.
And you were there witnessing certain events, so you had the direct experience saying, that's a lie.
Exactly.
That didn't happen.
And he was like, well, yeah.
So I was the creative director, and so he's off shooting photos, and I'm actually laying out the front page, laying out the inside of the paper, and him and I are talking basically while he's on
doing all these things.
on his photography jobs. And I would be looking at what we were laying out, and while watching CNN and all of these different media cover it and lie about all the different things that were going on.
You're laying out these papers, you're like, that's different than that.
Well,
Like,
right. It's like, it's like I'm watching the original stuff, and then I'm looking at what they're saying, and I'm like, it was actually blowing my mind. It took me a while to realize how off the mainstream media was, because we're all kind of programmed, I guess you could say, to just believe that what these talking heads are telling us is true, and that they're journalism at its best shouldn't be those things, right?
Exactly.
And you're taught that growing up, and freedom of press, all of those things, and then to see it in front of me, and it was like this atomic bomb inside me went off of just wanting to do something about it, right? And I think towards the end of our careers, I guess you could say, at the Epoch Times, it was about the end of 2017, and we had the opportunity to basically to create a channel. And him and I talked for a while. At first, I was going to do most of the branding stuff because I'm a designer. And then we just decided to kind of put our heads together and really go forward with a channel that could, I think, with a high production value, really try to get the news out that a lot of mainstream media doesn't even want to touch, of all of these different things,
That's the goal of all of us as, citizen journalists or digital soldiers or whatever you want to call us. We're out there at the front lines of the info war on the internet, just trying to get the truth out there, get information out there that nobody else is going to help push that public narrative towards one of transparency and truth and open sourceness. And listening to your guys' come up in your awakening, it brings up an interesting idea in mind, in that it's always direct experience. You can read as much as you want and scroll articles on the internet and whatnot, but like, you guys saw directly lies. You saw the establishment, the whole industrial complex lie to us, and that's a lot like my awakening experience. at a health food store I was at, is that I saw, you know, the pharmaceutical industrial complex start to fail people. And I saw people have experiences with natural remedies and herbal remedies and things like that that actually, you know, saved them. So those are the lives I saw. And even we were just at ECETI and having the direct experiences of seeing stuff in the sky, knowing that it's probably not ours, and then understanding, well, it could be ours. But just all these things and listening to the speakers there, you know, you have to experience these things to really get that awakening down into your soul, you know, not just ruminating up here, but then have it hit home into your subconsciousness.
Right. And I think the other aspect too is, you know, both him and I have had a lot of, like, I guess you could say multi-dimensional experiences, spiritual experiences, kind of paranormal experiences. And this is stuff that him and I would always talk about with each other, along with, like, you know, then that kind of brings in the conspiracy aspect. Because it's like, you know, we can have these kind of experiences. We were seeing the conspiracy part of it, you know, which we like to call conspiracy realists. You know?
We're conspiracy analysts.
Yeah, that's a better word for it. And, you know, and then we actually talked about doing a channel like this back in like 2015 or something, but just it wasn't there. The resources weren't there. We weren't ready for it or anything. And then, you know, and then actually someone we work with now, he was telling us about Corey Good back in like 2016. And he's like, you guys should check this guy out. You know, a lot of the stuff that we were already talking about, you know, we realized like someone like Corey Good was talking about. So
that's cool.
You know, and then we got into more of the secret space program things and
back in
and all of that.
Back in 2011 or 12, reading a lot of David Wilcock's work was a huge basic stimuli for me waking up, and that whole sort of things, having that huge expanded perspective, you know, researching the ideas of like secret space programs, black projects, and mass arrests and this sort of stuff, having that expanded picture years ago, I think helps us a lot now in understanding things like Q and these sorts of operations going on behind the scenes to help liberate all of us.
Yeah, and actually I was at the White House as a photographer for Epic Times when Q first made his first post.
Nice.
Like I was actually at the, you know, the press room and everything, and it was just really interesting. And Trump was talking about the Uranium-1 scandal at that time. He's like,
incredible.
Because he was like, you guys need to look into the Uranium-1. And like, I literally heard the CNN guys say, who are you to tell us what to report on? And I just looked at him and I'm like, dude, if whatever Trump says, you report on. And as soon as he says, you guys should look into this, you're like, no. Like, how? Like this is the kind of stuff that I was just like, how can you do this?
Quick shout out to the Epic Times. I was telling Rob this earlier today. Like years ago, before my YouTube channel, before I was doing all this stuff, I remember walking through the ferry terminal over in Seattle and seeing a paper print of the Epic Times next to the Seattle Times. And I looked at it, I'm like, I've never seen that paper before. I have no idea what it is. And it like burned in my memory. And then years later, come 2000, maybe last year, I started seeing the Epic Times everywhere and reading them a lot more. And I was interviewed by Josh as well for an article they did on Q. And I was like, oh, epic. And then I met these guys, and little do I know these guys, you know, had previous connections to them. So great outlet, fantastic outlet, very truthful.
We would agree for sure.
And then what are you guys thinking of new Q drops? Let's just get into that.
Oh my gosh, man. We were like all in the car and like saying like,
we're all driving home yesterday, all of us, and it's like, trying to keep up with all this stuff, barely having service most of the way, and of course we're like driving. Oh,
it's like just made a post.
The last like 2 minutes later, hours have been nuts.
It has incredible.
And then going through, he's been reposting a lot of stuff too, which is really interesting.
A lot of very important concepts that are still relevant right now. A lot of this stuff's still very relevant. So, I mean, the main theme of these posts is, of course, Epstein with his arrest the other day, which just that mind blowing in and of itself.
Yeah.
And connections to a lot of other very high-profile individuals. Q mentioned Les Wexner, was it?
Yes.
So you know very much about him.
Yeah, so I'm from Columbus, Ohio, and Les Wexner pretty much owns Columbus, Ohio. He's like the wealthiest person, I think, in
billionaire
Ohio.
philanthropist.
Yeah, so he owns Victoria's...
Philanthropist.
Yeah. So he owns like Victoria's Secret, the limited corporations. He used to own Express. I think he sold it. Lane Bryant, I think he sold that too. Like Ann Taylor, like all of that stuff. Some of those he sold, but he still owns Victoria's Secret. But everything in Columbus is named after. It's like Wexner Center, Wexner this, Wexner University, Wexner that, you know.
And then all of these connections between these just like Victoria's Secret. Think of these companies. I think of one of the most recent Q drops is mentioning talent agencies and modeling agencies. You know, this is what they use to hire, to find their basically victims, or to search, talent search for, as a, you know, nasty context in their eyes.
Well, and as big of a drop that is, and it's like, it's such a rabbit hole. I mean, that's just the tip of an iceberg with this stuff. I mean, once
go into the galleries.
Well, yeah. So, oh my gosh, that's its own thing. I mean, when we start talking about the sex trafficking and the pedophilia aspect of all of this, you know, over the last few weeks, I'm not sure if you were aware of this, but Ben and I kind of finally posted a few episodes on you know, Pizza Fence. On YouTube, that's what we call it. Just
Pizza Fence.
Stay under the radar.
Okay.
So so we ended up posting a couple videos, and you know, we went deep into this rabbit hole. We decided to definitely take what other people's research was, but then also do our own on this. And what we ended up finding was really unsettling, especially in the way of art. So as you know, like you know, Tony
Podesta's performance art.
Okay, it's not just their performance art, it's also that these people are collectors. And when you understand that these people are collectors, and then the artwork that they're getting in is often of pedophilia and all of these different things, and you start looking at where they're getting it, the galleries, and the people behind the galleries, this is a huge bag of cats.
It's like, you know, from what I've researched, they utilize, say, art galleries and also food joints, of course.
Yeah.
Pizza shops and maybe even donut shops, things like that. Ice cream companies, I've seen odd symbols on those. You know, there's a reason Q says symbolism would be their downfall, because that's how many of these individuals communicate with each other. And seeing this on all sorts of different industries and on businesses, and not only the food but the art galleries, and it's a way they launder money too. It's a way they launder their money through art galleries, things like that. Q mentioned book deals today. A lot of these high-profile cabal members do book deals, just various ways to sell the ideas to the public, and, you know, totally do something else on the back end.
I mean, the artwork is so important, right? Because someone throws something on a canvas, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, a Rockefeller buys it for $1 million. It's actually money laundering that they're doing. That painting is not worth $1 million, but as soon as someone buys it for that much,
it's not
Jim Carrey's art.
You need to pay me.
I think a 5-year-old could do better than Jim Carrey. I mean, he's probably just begging for money right now and needs to get paid.
Yeah, no offense to anyone out there doing like modern art, but if you got to look into the history.
Offense to you doing modern art out there, because it's terrible. It's actually terrible, and it's not even worth being called art. I mean,
it's not. But I mean, you just
East Coasters. I don't know. It's East Coast.
You got to understand where it comes from.
Yeah, and other Q drops, you know, connecting Flynn, talking about Flynn and how Flynn, well, massive Q proof in that Q said Flynn news coming, and then literally, what, hours later the next day, we started hearing Flynn news from Sarah Carter breaking a lot of articles. And it's just so many things breaking right now. Drug bust. How about a U.S. Customs seizing a ship in the port of Philadelphia with $1 billion of cocaine, and this was a J.P. Morgan vessel. J.P. Morgan vessel.
Mind blowing. It's just mind blowing.
And I thought it was poetic that today, of all days, I mean, tomorrow is Nikola Tesla's birthday, and today we hear about the ship being seized that J.P. Morgan owned, and who defrauded Nikola Tesla 100 years ago, J.P. Morgan. So the Morgans have been screwing this country for well over a century, and all these other banker folks. Speaking of banker, you said, you know, Q reposting old posts. Q was reposting a lot of posts from the Q&A they did back in December 2018.
Right.
One of those was talking about the Fed bringing back the gold standard. So I think that's huge.
It is huge.
And
they're working towards that. I mean, actively. There's a lot going on right now.
Yeah, and our economy's doing great, but of course there's like 1,000 million ways, getting a little dark in here, 1,000 ways that it could get better. So that's good. And then JFK Jr., Q mentioned JFK Jr. Being dead and saying facts matter, you know, fake news tries to attack. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think there was a lot of different misunderstandings. You know, like a lot of people, when Q posts something, sometimes they think it's disinformation, right? So they're like, oh, he definitely is, but they're throwing him off. And then there's all these people doing research on the side, and there's this hope that that could actually be true, because what would be more epic than you know,
it feels good. It feels good to your emotions.
Yeah.
Thinking I'm going to be saved by this or that or whatever the case.
Or just the idea that if this person resurfaced, how in trouble these people that we've been wanting to get hit. But the main thing is that
we have to go on facts.
Well, not just that, but I think that a lot of folks in the Qanon community have been
turn the
getting,
lights on. See what it looks
Sure,
like.
yeah, go ahead. A lot of folks in the Qanon community have been losing a lot of hope because no one's been getting arrested. This has been going on for a really long time. And I think that Epstein, we have to understand, Epstein getting arrested is
just the tip of the domino. It's
huge,
the domino falling down.
But it is, but it's gigantic.
Yeah.
It's not small at all.
Everything just took a massive leap. You
Yes.
know, I'm seeing people's Twitters getting twice the likes they get on tweets than just a few weeks ago. So it's a massive push.
And they're going to go after social media next. Like Google is another one that they're hitting,
Google's already banning. I saw Google banning searches of or censoring pictures showing Bill Clinton and Jeffrey Epstein together. And then Wikipedia.
It's not just Google.
And Wikipedia sanitized their page to remove a lot of Epstein's connections to various, of course, D individuals and deep state folk, but then leave the Trump connections there. So there's all sorts of BS they're trying to do right now to manage the narrative.
Well, I went on DuckDuckGo trying to find those photos.
Compare DuckDuckGo and Google.
But they're still gone.
Oh, really?
So I'm thinking it's beyond Google. Like
they're
this
firing up those CIA computers to scrub.
They went to the source on that one for sure.
Yeah.
I think you need to go to the Wayback Machine if you want to try to find something there with that.
But this is definitely an agency that did it.
Q just posted 4 more. Guys, like 50 now. 50 posts, seriously.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
so it's been
crazy.
Thank you all for the super chats, my friends. We've kind of been just talking.
We're reading comments, you guys. That's why we're leaning on. Not so you can see our ugly melons.
Whoa, what's going on?
Yeah, 3 musketeers. 3 truth-tears.
Awesome. I'm sure we got some shout out to our fans who are joining us.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you guys.
It's awesome. This is actually the first. We were really excited because this is the first time we've been on Destroying the Illusions.
Yeah.
We've had Jordan on a bunch of times. Most of you remember him from the Donkey Balls episode. But I mean, you know, there were other interviews we had with him that were less significant than Donkey Balls.
Much less significant.
Yeah, actually,
much less entertaining.
Those
too.
Q interviews that we did at Cosmic Ways. We got a lot of really great feedback from
That's
those,
awesome.
So.
Actually, funny story. So this woman this weekend at ECETI, she comes up and she has this bright look on her face. She's like, Rob, oh my God, I didn't know if I was going to see you. She's like, is Jordan and Ben here? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, I have something for you guys. And I was like, what? She opens her bag and there's donkey balls.
Oh my God.
From Hawaii.
She's from Hawaii.
She was like, I've been waiting so long to give you guys these. I had to go there and get them.
There were a lot of great people there this weekend.
It was
cool.
amazing. I met some really awesome people.
Yeah, and it was great being at a place, that's just uncensored. Place where they don't, as long as you're for truth and for compassion and just for openness, they're not going to stifle you. And of course, we're going to start seeing, I think you just mentioned a lot of stifling on the internet, censorship. I'm sure that'll begin to increase. I think we were all looking at our YouTubes last night, and I don't think I've had a monetized video on this channel for like 2 months or 3 months. Seriously, it's been that long. So it's getting bad out there. But I think,
it'll change.
Yeah, as long as we're all smart, as long as we don't give them excuses to censor us or excuses to attack us, keep everything professional and level-headed, it'll all be good. And let's see, what else? I think we were at a UFO conference, seeing all these UFOs in the sky. One thing that I'm thinking about is since all this stuff's breaking, Epstein, Q's back on the scene, et cetera, I think a lot of UFO stories are going to start getting pushed in the mainstream media. A big push of that sort of limited hangout.
Controlled disclosure.
Controlled, managed disclosure.
Intelligent disclosure.
Extremely intelligent disclosure.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a huge push of this all into the mainstream media because they're desperate for a distraction, desperate for a diversion from all this stuff. And they're desperate to insert their gatekeepers who are going to help them manage the narratives. So...
That's my favorite mug.
It's funny. On the mainstream media, all these UFO articles are about all this, To the Stars Academy and this UFO video and everybody associated with that. But little do they connect the Space Force in with that topic and discuss that. So, yeah, there's a lot coming, folks.
A lot.
A little bit more than just...
I think this by the end of the summer, I think there's going to be a ton of things that have unraveled. I mean,
Right.
think about what's happened in the last 48 hours after that huge domino fell. And now think at the end of August where we're going to be. I really think this summer is going to be really huge.
And it's just going to get
sure.
more exponential.
It
So if you think things have
will.
been crazy the past few days, it's just going to stay like this.
Which brings me to my favorite Q post over the last 48 hours, which was this image of Trump
I knew
with
you
this
would say
smug
that.
expression on his face.
My
like
turn.
This. Yeah.
My turn.
My turn. I was like, yeah, buddy.
And we had some Q plus posts in there too.
Yeah, there were a couple
Yeah,
of Q
yeah,
plus posts.
President Trump popping
Yeah.
in and giving us all a little
They
shout
were really
out on there.
encouraging.
They
There was
were.
like, I was talking to some people and they were like, "Oh, Q plus just posted." It was like they were like all emotional about it. It was great.
I mean, what they've done with this letter of the alphabet, really this operation, is freaking incredible.
It is.
Yeah.
Man.
I mean, not only have they, number one, helped so many people wake up and start connecting dots and doing the research on their own, but number two, I think one of the Q posts in the last 50 we've gotten over the past day mentioned you didn't think posting on this anonymous board was for nothing, did you? And
Yeah.
basically that meant, at the press conference they were doing with Epstein, one of the attorneys up there, one of the federal investigators mentioned they had the help of some brilliant investigators. I think he even said citizen investigators.
Yeah, I
That's
think-
basically a
yeah.
nod to the Chans. I mean, one of
Yeah.
the things that they started this whole Q operation for on uncensored boards, anonymous boards on the internet, is to get open source information on there to help use for their stuff behind the scenes. I mean, imagine that. Wow. All the free labor.
Yeah.
All the passionate people that are just putting their extra man hours in there, whatever they can find after work or before the gym or something like that, in their spare time because they're passionate about exposing all the untruth in the world and all the darkness. They boom, get on 8chan, let's do some researching, and who knows who might be lurking on those boards and picking up what you might be putting down on there, right?
That is
Oh
so
man,
true.
I think the
That's so
8chan boards have been so important for everything here.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest, when you think about what the work that we're doing, right? The biggest distraction from us, honestly, doing this and exposing all of the stuff that we're trying to expose and doing all of the research that we're trying to do is actually Q himself or itself, because it's a group. I don't think it's a person. But if Q wasn't doing this and dropping all of this stuff and really like paving the way, like it would, I really think it would have been so much harder for us to be putting all of this out
we would
there.
be so discombobulated.
And we'd be
Yeah.
huge targets. I mean, think about it, right?
Uh-huh.
Like,
Yeah. Well, this is what inspired and motivated a lot of people. I mean,
Yeah.
sure, I think what Q did, it kind of funneled everybody into one place, which originally was 4chan, which
Yeah.
got taken over by
And
the
then they moved to
CIA,
8chan.
and then
but-
8chan. But I think what the really, really good thing about this is that it everyone kind of joined forces and Q posts one thing and then everyone's like, oh, let's all research this together.
Yeah.
So everyone's not on their own thing, doing different stuff.
Every time you see Q post about a particular topic, you feel the collective consciousness just get hit with that, and it's doing damage to all the untruths out there that they've tried to box us in with. It's just every time more expansion, more expansion. So
Someone wrote, "Panic! Patriots are now in control."
yeah, there you
That's
go.
pretty good.
He was on fire, and I can't even imagine what sort of public proofs they're gonna start to unveil.
yeah, someone just said, now comes the pain.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're, with all of the kind of folks that have fallen off, I think a lot of people have gotten disheartened, especially over the last few months. I've been
Yeah.
through so many threads of different people losing hope and everything going on. I really hope this injects a little bit more hope into the entire movement that's going on here so that, people keep
100%.
researching and we get all of this. We go through all of this and really, truly drain that swamp.
All the digital soldier troops for the last few weeks out there have been taking shell fire and discombobulated and don't know what to do, and now the general's back on the scene. So back to work.
Yeah, and I really hope this inspires people out there who do know the truth, who maybe connected with some of these people
Yeah.
who have been quiet, to really step forward with information that they have to the right people.
Well, and another thing too is I think this is so much more. This is probably one of the most complicated situations that's ever existed in the history of man. I mean, you have, yes, there's a lot of good-hearted people who want to see these arrests happen because we're talking about children, we're talking about sex trafficking, we're talking about all of those things. But look what they've done so far. I mean, to actually get a situation where we have a president in there almost incognito is trying to do good. And then you have all of these folks that are trying to expose all of this, and the alliance back there doing everything that they're doing. It's not simple. It's very complicated. There are things going on behind the scenes that we're not aware of. Tribunals going on as we speak. I mean, this just shows Epstein being touched the way that he has, being arrested the way he has, shows us that this work is going on.
100%.
And that we can, we can have faith that that's going on,
Q saying Ray Chandler is NXIVM times 100 or times 1,000 or something like that. Now with Epstein arrested, the NXIVM case is getting, I guess, kind of wrapped up in some way, or we're moving on to bigger fish.
Yeah,
I want to say so much bigger fish, and that's just going to expose more. And then on this hand, the deep state, they're going to be so desperate for a diversion or distraction, they're going to be leaking information everywhere. So it's kind of a double-edged sword that they're in. They're like, oh crap, we're desperate for distraction, so we have to disclose this. But everything they disclose, again, it's leaking more information out to the public. Yeah, it might be twisted context, some misinformation, but you can still see through that, and they're still having to volunteer up some and disclose some information out again. So it's just going to get crazy from here, man.
Absolutely.
And I think really another important note is that the mainstream media is trying to tie Trump with Epstein right now. This is another attack coming out because they were what was it in Florida? Epstein and Trump he was
Dude, Trump kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago.
Kicked him out, right? I mean,
specifically for him attacking.
And he only took one plane ride on Epstein plane. He went away from Epstein's island from Florida to New York and was never found in the Black Book. Never traveled to Little St. James or whatever.
Whereas there are tons of people in that book.
Oh my gosh, go through the names in that book. There are many, and
But I mean, what's craziest, right, is like you have someone who's that clean, is a billionaire, next to Epstein, who's a billionaire, doesn't really have any contact. Meanwhile, you have his affiliations so closely with the Clintons, and no one's pointing at the Clintons or saying anything about the Clintons. Mainstream media.
Bill Clinton forgot. He forgot. His medical condition he's going to claim is probably Alzheimer's, so he doesn't convenently remember what happened on those 26 flights.
I think he drank too much blood.
Some without secret security, secret service detail.
But just Ray Chandler happened to be there,
Yeah. Coincidence. These are not the droids you're looking for.
Well said.
This is not the little black book that you're looking for. So, truly. Anything else you guys want to... I guess we should wrap it up here. Anything else you guys want to...
No, man, it was great hanging out with you here.
Yeah, it is really.
Appreciate
Great hanging out with you guys.
I will tell one more story from SETI,
please.
because this was actually one of the stories that really blew my mind. Is one of the nights... what was that? Were those infrared goggles that they were using?
The infrared goggles. Yeah.
So they had really expensive equipment out there to survey and document
military grade
military grade equipment to survey and document like any activity or what was going on in the mountain, because the mountain is just a very strange phenomena, right? And so I was given the goggles at a certain point, and I got to use them for about 5 or 10 minutes straight. And so somebody gives me the goggles, and as soon as I pull them up, I'm not kidding, immediately a light appears on the mountain, and then I see another light appear across the mountain, and I'm watching and I'm like, oh my God, what is this? And all of a sudden, this stream of lights appears between those two dots while I'm looking at it.
I saw the same thing.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh my God, and everyone's like, what are you seeing? What are you seeing?
And then when you take them off,
you have to understand, these two dots were like, I mean, you're talking about thousands of meters away on this mountain, right? And there's a stream of lights connecting those two dots. And I was like, I don't even know what I'm looking at right now. And I immediately gave the goggles to someone else, and they were like, oh my God, what is this, right? Like, it wasn't just me that saw this. But it was dark, it was nighttime. But these infrared goggles do it is when you pull them up and you look through them, it almost looks like it's daytime, right? Like, that's what it does. And to see that going on there, and you're talking about what I saw was impossible. It was an impossible thing. Like, it's not like
I saw the same thing
like it
too,
was two people or there was like fires or hikers.
As Trump would say about UFOs, anything is possible.
Right. I mean, anyway, it was just a very strange thing that I saw. Totally unexplainable. I have no idea what it was, but there was like the lights coming off of those mountains were just so weird. It didn't, or that mountain just didn't make any sense.
Yeah, and also there was no trails. Honestly, there's you can't really hike on this mountain. I mean, you can kind of secretly,
Yeah,
but there's not really.
it's an extremely remote mountain, and there's really only a couple paths that go up to it. And it's just very weird when you see these lights that aren't constant, that are very far away, that last for a while, et cetera, et cetera. So
yeah. And I saw them moving around too, so it's just really interesting stuff. But,
yeah.
But if you guys haven't checked out East City, we would highly recommend it. It's just such an amazing place. The energy there is so pure. The people there are awesome. I would highly recommend it.
If you haven't checked out Edge of Wonder's channel,
Thank you, bro.
edgeofwonder.tv. Go check them out. Thanks y'all for hanging out with us this evening.
Yep.
So
take it easy, y'all.
See you out on the edge.
Space Force.
Edge of Illusion.
Space Force.